Hi, Rich Spizzano here from Digitally Fearless, and today we're going to create trading cards. And I've created these, and I call them the Canine Kids. But you can create any kind of cards you like, and call them anything you like. So let's get started. So the standard size trading cards like tops and baseball cards and football cards and things like that are 2.5 by 3.5. So I created a 2.5 by 3.5 document. I did it at 150. If you're sending it to a printer, you might want to do it 300, but I didn't want, since I'm recording on the computer at the same time, I cut it back to help with computer processing. So the next thing we'll do is we're going to create a rectangle with the shape tool, and we're going to fill the document, and I will give it a nice color blue. You can choose any color. You could do red, you could do green, anything you want, but I would like to do a blue. And now I'm going to duplicate that layer, Control or Command J. I'm going to shrink it, so I'm going to grab the corner and just bring it in a little bit. And let's say anywhere right just about there. I can change it, and I'm even going to give it some more on the bottom, like something like that on the bottom. And now I'll take that one and hold shift and click the next one. That means both layers are selected, and I'm going to do layer, geometry, subtract. And now what we have is a shape with a hole inside. So this is a hollow shape, and since it is a shape, if I ever need to change these, for example, if I think I left myself too much, I'm using my arrows, I'm moving down and up. I can make these any size I need to be. So that's the frame, and that we just want to know what's going in here. Now I could have created a regular frame and clipped the artwork, but I wanted to do like a template so that this is much easier for me in this case. So I'm just going to lock that frame for now. We'll work on all the details of the frame later. So now I brought in some pictures. For example, I hit stock and I typed dog in, and I got this dog. So let's bring him in. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm dragging it. I want to take this dog out of the group, and so I'm just going to, just so I save it in case I make a mistake, I'm going to duplicate it, Control or Command J, and I'm going to bring the dog up here to the top. And let's go from there. Now we have this dog, and we need to position him so within the frame. So if I turn on the frame, let me move the frame back to the top, I'm sorry. So if I turn on the frame, we need to figure out what size this dog should be, and I think I want him to be a little bit smaller. And we could change his size later, we'll figure it out. But right now, I'm thinking this is pretty good size. Leave a little extra room on top, I think. Something like that. And now we also have a kid. So I'm going to Control or Command J and bring him out of the group and put him above the dog. And kid also, I hit stock and I think I typed kid. And there he is right here, and I just dragged him out. You can choose your own kid, you can choose your own pet. You can make these trading cards about anything. I'm just doing these just for the fun of it because I'm crazy. Wow, this is a big picture. I didn't realize how big it was, so I'm going to shrink this picture way down here. Let's see. Something in that area. Let's look at this. Let's get closer. And what I'm going to do is turn the opacity a little bit down. And what I'm trying to do is get this kid's face close to where the dog would be. So I'm going something like this, even more. And I might make the dog bigger too, I'm not sure. No, it's too big. Let me lower the opacity a little bit more. You can see here's his eyes and here's the eyes. So we're going to kind of try and match the eyes, and I'm moving him a little sideways like that. And I might think I might want both of them to come down. I'm not crazy about this kid's belly showing, no offense, but I'm going to bring it down like that. And I think that's kind of okay. Let's see. And I want it a little bit off center. I think that looks good like that. Okay, so the dog's eyes are much wider than the kid, it looks like. So maybe the dog should be a little smaller. That looks good, and up a little. I'm using my arrow keys, and that's fairly close, I think. I think we're pretty good there. So let's bring the kid's opacity back up a minute. So there's the dog and there's the kid. The dog looks like a little bit more of an angle. So let's try this. Now let's see. The kid, the dog, see the eyes? They need to be near each other. And I kind of think that works okay. I would like the kid's hair. You notice how people's heads are much larger than animals' heads. So we need to do something about this kid's head. So what I think I'll do there, I'm gonna fade him just slightly, just so I can see this is the top of the dog's head. I think I'll rasterize the kid first so we don't have all this extra. So I'm gonna right click and say rasterize and trim. So now the kid is just this part of the square. And now I'm going to go to my mesh warp tool. And if you double click, you don't want to move anything below his eyes. So if you double click on the mesh warp, it creates a line. So what I'm going to now do is kind of bring this kid's head down. Remember where the dog is. See? Oh, you can't do that while oh, you can while we're in mesh. Good. So we're trying to get the kid's head closer to where the dog is. So we're going to bring him down a little bit. I don't want to crush his head. So I want to like make it look still a little more natural. But let's see where this is. I'm trying to find the node here. But a little bit higher. See where I'm trying to get the hair to kind of go where the ears are. It just, I can't see the node here. There we go. So maybe something, that's not too bad. Maybe something like that. And let's bring the opacity back up. Yeah, I think that's okay. So I'm going to say apply. I know he looks a little awkward, but not bad. So now that we have the kid, let's first try to mask him. Now, again, I am not doing a really good mask. I need to spend a lot of time to get this mask right, and you should spend a lot of time also. But for this tutorial and for speed, I need to go quickly, otherwise it'll take forever. So we'll even turn the top layer off, and let's just start masking this kid. So the shirt's easy, obviously. So let's go to where it gets more difficult, of course, at where the white of his arms are, just barely making it. I'm tapping a little bit. And again, it will not be perfect, guys. Understand that I'm doing this, and you should spend a ton of time doing this. I'm holding Alt because I don't want in between his arms right here. And I want to get a little more of that. And same thing here, I'm holding Alt. So we get in there. And now the face. And of course the heart. I don't like this little extra hair sticking out. And that was with the original, so I have no idea what that is and why it's like that. So I'm just going to go kind of like this. I'm just going to get a little bit more of that hair and see. Oops, I need to get in here. And in here I'm holding Alt. So I'm getting, and I'm going to get rid of, I think, that little piece of hair. I don't like that piece of hair there. And I need to go Alt here. And maybe get this, but not the inside. So let's see. There we go. That's close enough for me. Please, 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 please remember, really work on it for yourself. So I'm hitting refine, and I don't think that, let's see what it looks like on a black mat. Not terrible. I need more here and here. We didn't get some of that, but I can live with most of this. It's not perfect, I admit, but we're going to have a blurred background and it's not going to matter that much. So what I'll do here is, let's see what I can do. I want this to be part of the foreground when I'm clicking right now. I think that's the way I do it, and it becomes part of, like you're painting foreground back in here. And see this? There's a little bit of a line there. Anything else? I'm not trying to be perfect, guys. I'm just, and I don't like this piece of hair. So I'm going to get rid of that. Well, you know what? I'll mess that out separately. And I might just do a tiny bit of a feather, like 0.1. And I'm going to say mask and say apply. Okay, good. Let's see where we're at. That's pretty good. All right, now let's bring the frame back in, right? So next thing I want to do is we're only going to worry about the dog's face. So we do need to mask the dog out, but before I mask the dog out that way, I'm just going to change the opacity of the boy slightly again and see where we want, where the dog part will stay and where the person will stay, the kid. So I think we're going to use his nose. So let's start adding a mask to, add to this mask. Now remember, this kid is already masked out. You know what I'll do? I don't want two masks, so I'm actually going to rasterize him again just for simplicity. And so now he's already masked. You can see the dog behind him, and it's just one piece. So now I'm going to add a new mask, and I'm hitting the D on my keyboard, which changes these to black and white. If you don't know how to do that, you should check out my top 20 tips. And I'm going to the paintbrush. And if you paint in black on the mask, make sure the mask is selected. If you paint in black, the underneath shows through. You're masking him. So I'm going to start painting, and I want the brush to be wide so it's a soft edge. I'm going to just start. I'm sure I'm going to paint more than I need, like that. And I'm going to lower it a little bit, and I want the dog ears. So we don't know how far they are, so I'll go further than I need them to be. Okay, so we know the dog ears are right there. I think I want a little bit of the dog head to meet up with his hair like that. I'm going to go back a little on that and add some hair back. And a little bit here, I think I want the dog. Let's see how much we can do here. Okay, so I think a little bit going toward his cheek too, like that. I'm just tapping to blend them in a little bit. And I'm going to lower this opacity just to see where the dog is again on the kid. And that's actually pretty good, I think. All right, so now I want to bring back some of the kid here, now that we know where the edges of the dog are. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to switch to white and smaller brush and start bringing back some of this kid, right there. I don't want the white where the dog was. And let's bring back some of this, like that. He's looking pretty good, I think. What do you think? And let's get rid of his collar here. I just really want him to look like his face is on the shirt. Now again, please remember, I'm doing this very, very, very quickly, so you should take your time on a lot of this. But that's as far as I'm going. So I'm okay with that right now. So all we're using is this part of the dog's head. So we should name him, by the way. Since he's he's half dog and half person. First of all, I'm going to call these trading cards Canine Kids. I think that would be fun with a K. Canine with a K, Kids. And I'm going to name him Willie Woof. So we're going to put all these labels on the card just like you'd see on a trading card. So you're only looking at this part of the head with the dog. So all we need to do now is let's hide the kid. So we're only using this much of the dog, so I'm going to do the selection tool again, selection paint tool. I'm not going to be perfect here, guys. Just like I tell you, you do it yourself. I'm being very quick here. Just something like that. And we know we didn't even use the collar, so that might be all that we need. I would like to get a little bit of those in, but I don't know how much of it shows, so I'm just going to go like that for now. And I'm not being careful. Again, please, please, please be aware that you should be much better than what I'm doing right here. I'm going to click on him and do mask and refine. And I'm going to just feather it maybe again for 1.1. And let's see, give a little bit here maybe. And we want to get rid of a lot of that and a lot of that. And that's good enough for what I need it for. Maybe a little bit down here. And I could fix the mask later, so let's just mask it and say apply. So now when we turn on the kid, we have a white background. I'm not crazy about this section, so what I'll do here is that the kid, yes. I want to add some more to this kid. I'm going to group. I'm actually going to group these and then rasterize it again. I only rasterize when I do things like this because it strains the processor of the computer, and since I'm only doing this as a tutorial, it's easier to rasterize it because I know I'm not using this for anything else. So I want to get these, now this is all one piece. So I want to get his ear to go more to his head, so I'll just use the stamp tool and see if I can get some of this, maybe some of this hair up here. Let's do Alt and add some of that here so it blends in. And maybe up here I'm going to do Alt and add some more hair. And it's great that I was able to pick a dog with the same, almost the same color. If not, we would have to do some coloring there. And I also would take an eraser, I think. I could mask it also, but for this, I just want to get rid of some of these stray hairs like that. And some of this that looks like it doesn't belong. And good enough. I mean, good enough. Again, I should have been more careful here, but this is good enough for what we need. So the next thing I did was I looked up backgrounds in the stock photo. So let me duplicate that and bring this behind them. And I found, I don't know how I found it. I just looked up backgrounds. So I'm just going to pull it in. I wanted something with texture. So I thought that this would be good. And just to give some texture in the background. And what I'll do now is I'll take that and I'm just going to go to some blur, as I really don't want too much showing, like that. I want him to be more prominent, and I think I might even sharpen him, bring him up with curves a little bit. So now I'm on the kid dog at this point now. I'm going to just give a little S curve, kind of like that, and I like that kind of. I think that works. Warning, this is a public service announcement. Do not try this tutorial at home unless you are using a computer. Do not really cut a dog's nose and ears off and place them on your kid's face. Do not cut your kid's face off and place it on your dog. Side effects are pain and death. This has been a public service announcement. Now back to our tutorial. Other than the frame, let's hide the frame. Now we're going to go Layer, Merge Visible. Now we have one picture. Let's hide this. One picture now with the kid. Actually, we can hide everything below. Nothing below is shown. Now we have one picture with the kid and the background. Let's bring the frame back up. And what I'm going to do is a split tone. So let's go to Adjustments. Where is it? Split toning. And what I'd like to do is bring up the highlight and shadow, and I think I want to put more in the red for the highlights and blue for the shadows. And we could decide how much we want, whether we want more red or more blue. We can also go, the highlights could be in this color too. No, I think I like more in the reds. I think I'll go there and bring those down just a little bit and keep the blues there. And I like that, I think. So, okay. And so there's a difference. Turn it off, turn it on. I kind of like the feeling of that. So now comes the other part. Now we need to create the cards here themselves. I think I'll make a rectangle. And instead of the fill being solid, I'm going to go to a gradient. And I am going to add I want to add a middle gradient. Where is it? Insert a middle. And I want to turn that middle color to a red. So something like that. Good. And then I want this outer one. I don't care what color it is. I want the opacity to 0. And I want to do the same thing here. I want the opacity to 0. And I want the red to be pretty far out. So I'm moving these lines. And this now with a rectangle, what I'll do is I'll start here and I'll go across. And why didn't it do it? Let's see. I should have done it. Interesting. Did not work. Ah, because it's underneath. See how crazy you can get. So let's go back. I think I screwed this one up. Maybe a little less there. Why is that dark? Let's see what this color is. This color, it shouldn't even show. I don't know why this is showing. Oh, that's why, the opacity. I didn't bring the opacity down, or it did and it messed up. So that's what we have. And we can change the gradient on there. We can move it a little bit afterwards. But I kind of like the look of that, like that. In fact, no, I don't. I think I'm going to be a little more transparency on the edges. A little smoother transparency. There you go. So now we need some text. So I found this text on DAFONTS, Defonts, and it's called GB something or other. So let's look for it. GB Golden Bones. And I'm just going to type here K9 Kids because I'm a crazy person and I decided that my trading cards are going to be called the K9 Kids. You can name them anything you want. You can name them, I don't know, the floppy felines if you want to do cats. I don't know. You call them whatever you want. But I decided since there's a mixture of the two, I'm using dogs, I'm doing K9 Kids. And I think that looks pretty good. I could do a drop shadow or something, but I kind of like it just the way it is. I could see later on. And let's make sure these are hitting the center. Yep, that's good. And then we're going to bring this down. I'm going to do Control Command J. Bring it down. And I am going to put it to the side a little bit like that. And then I'm going to, you know what? I'm not using the bones for the one below. If it looks a little bit blurry because I'm actually enlarged, if you really want to view the actual size, because remember they are smaller. That's what, remember they are 2.5 by 3.5, so that's really what it'll look like. So we have a little bit of blur because we're close, but don't worry about that because that's not the actual size. We're enlarging it just to work on it, and so you can see it on the video. So K9 Kids. So remember, what did I say I was going to name him? I'm going to name him, let's just put it here, but I'm not going to use the bones. Willie Woof. You can call him Billy Bark, Willie Woof, whatever you want. I don't care. I like Willie Woof. Should I leave? Maybe I will leave the bones. I kind of like it. And I'm going to shrink it just a little. Oops. I'm going to go a little bit. No, let's go back to where we were. I'm going to shrink it just a little bit more. So this is Willie Woof, and I might bring these out a little bit. And the way I can bring it out without making it larger, because I want it to stay on this side, is again, I can go up here and move these out a little bit on each side so it covers his name. And let's make sure that that's 0 and 0 opacity, which is perfect. Okay, so that's good. And that's where we want to be. And the next thing, actually, I think I need more room down here. So what I'll do is I'll select the frame. Whoops, I locked the frame, so I can't select the frame until I unlock it. And I'll go to the node tool, and I'm going to put a box so I can grab both nodes. I want to bring it up a little bit more like that. And then I'm going to take Willie like there. The more I look at it, I don't want to leave him in bones. I am going to maybe use a Times New Roman with that. So let's just, I don't want it to be the same. I think it's overdone sometimes. New Roman, there we go. And I want it to be black, I think, in this case. Yeah, I like that look better. Okay, much better. Okay, so his name is Willie Wolf. I can make him a little bigger that way. And maybe if I select the both of them and do align center, we make sure that it's in the center there. Now I want a box below it with stats, and I still don't think I have enough room. So I'm going to select, which one do I have here? This one? Yeah, I'm going to select Willie and that and shrink him just a little bit, like that. And move him up. There we go. So now I want a white box, just a plain white box. Let me just make the box first. And I'm going to turn that to a solid color white. And okay, and why is it not white? Oh, because I did stroke, not white. There we go. Huh, something's wrong here. Okay, so I restarted, that didn't help, but I did find out the problem, and Seraph needs to figure this out. What happened was when I was on this fill, and we have 0 opacity and 0 opacity here, when I go to color, no matter what I do, it wasn't giving me color. So what I did was, not having this selected, I went here and I went to that gradient again, and I changed the opacities back to 100%. And then I went to color, and when I chose white, it worked. So that's a problem. You shouldn't have to worry about, if you did a gradient before, color should not be affected when you do a solid. At least in my opinion, and I think that's a bug. So I think Affinity should deal with that. So I'm going to do a rectangle like I started right here, and maybe around that much. And let's put it into position. I can give it a little bit more. There we go. And I'd like to do stats for this guy. But first I think I should create a bone, just to give like bullet points. So I'm going to do a bone. So let's get a close-up down here. And let's take the pen tool. And it's a really primitive bone, so I don't really care. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, let's see, I'm going to do click, click, and it doesn't have to be perfect because its bones are not perfect. Whoops, I don't want to be that off. Let's try it again. Click, 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 click. I'm clicking a lot, so here we go. All right, doesn't look much like a bone, right? But when you go into the node tool, you can do things like that. Like, oops, I'm trying to grab the line. You can always move that a little bit and grab that one out. Let's get closer. And pull that one out, and that one out, and that one. And you can go much smoother if you want. I just want it to be a stupid bone. It's more cartoonish, so I don't care about it being perfected, you know, and maybe pull this a little bit. I don't know, maybe something like that. And what I'll do is I'll fill that with black. And let's back up and see where we're at. Now remember, once again, I am backed up, but I'm still larger than what it would be. So here would be what it would look like in actual size, is down here. So we're going to shrink this. Whoops. I'm going to shrink it from the corner and actually rotate it. So we'll get back to close-up again. And let's give this kid some stats. So the stats, maybe I'll even shrink it that way. So his stats would be, for example, let's see, let's do, and I'm going to make his stats, I won't use the bones, so favorite. Let's just start there and just change the text first. I'm going to go to Times New Roman. Nope, didn't work. Let's try it again. Times, let's go down here. Or maybe it's just Times. Now, let's do Times New Roman. And I want it to be much smaller. Not that small, maybe a 10 point. So his favorite food, I guess it will have to be smaller. Kibbles and bits. Okay, maybe personality. Let's try that. Whoops. Personality is friendly. And favorite color, how about favorite color? And can you guess? His shirt is red, so I'm going to say red. And that looks pretty good to me. And let's shrink that to a reasonable size, like that. And then we'll take each bone, we'll duplicate it, Control or Command J, and we'll move one down, and Control or Command J, and we'll move it down. And we can move this over and maybe make it a little bit bigger. So here we have the canine kids, and it's Willie Woof. And he's a friendly wolf, and he likes the color red, and he likes eating kibbles and bits. So you know what? I don't like this canine kids part. I don't like the way it looks, so maybe we will give it an effects. And let's do an outer shadow. And let's see, I want to keep it no opacity, and keep it down, and I think that really pops it a little more, just like that. Maybe not so big of a radius. Let's see. No, I don't want it so blurry. So I'll bring the radius down, and just about like that. Let's get a close-up so you can see. I'm holding my space bar and dragging, see? Again, it's blurry because this is not the actual size. This is, you're looking at it much bigger than what it should have been. Actual, you have to always go back and view actual size. So it looks very clean on actual size. So there's a couple more things we can do, but before we do that, the most important thing for me, you know, Topps baseball cards, they always have their little logo somewhere. So I have to have my shameless plug. So what I'll do now is I am going to take my logo. I'm going to duplicate that and bring that way up to the top here. And my Digitally Fearless logo has to be in there. So oops, let's try that again. So I want to have my Digitally Fearless logo here, and that looks pretty good. Let's move it a little bit in, and I think this looks pretty good. There is one other thing, if you really want to do it to make it slightly 3D, I wouldn't do it on both sides. So if you take the frame and you add a mask, what you could do is paint on that mask, make sure the mask is selected, and make sure black is selected. You could bring his elbow like out. I'm not doing this very well, so let's get close up. Let's see. I don't want it so soft, but we can do this kind of thing. And then with, I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to hit white so we can bring this back. So if you look at it actual size now, so here we have the canine kids, and it's Willy Woof, and you can do anything you want. You can create, you can do it with your own kid. You can do it with animals. You can just not put animals. You can put anything you want. These are trading cards. Oh, what's something very important? If you can do this on cardstock and cut it with a cutter, but if you send it to a printer, they usually require 1/4 of an inch. You can check with your printer, a bleed. So you need to have a bleed for a printer. So what you can do now is say document, resize canvas, right, like that, and make sure you go from the middle, and instead of 2.5, you should have 1/4 of an inch bleed, but uncheck the lock. So 2.5 plus 1/4 is 2.75, and 3.5 plus 1/4 is 3.75. And we say resize. And what it does is that's the 1/4 inch bleed. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. You could go to the node tool and expand this blue, which is a good way to do it, or you can just take, honestly, you can just do below them all. Where's the, I have a mess here. I really should have put these into groups. So let's see where the bottom one would be. Maybe, is this where we are? Yeah, okay. So below this, on the bottom somewhere, we can just do layer, new fill layer, and we can turn that fill layer to the same exact blue since we don't have any borders on it. And now if you sent it to the printer would know, if, because most printers want 1/4 inch bleed. You can go to Vistaprint, you can do all kinds of things, but most printers want 1/4 inch bleed. So what they'll do, they'll print it. The cutter will be cut to the size like that we were looking at, so the card would be the exact size. So make sure you do that, and I think we're done. So this is another one of those crazy tutorials. You can do a lot of different things. We can drop shadow, this white. There's so many other things we can do, but again, for time-wise, I don't want to do it. I just want you to create your own. So I hope you like this tutorial, and if you do, please click like and subscribe. And also, check out my new website. I've just put it up. It's digitallyfearless.rspazzano.com. And thank you and have a great day.